Veterans of Reddit. What is the most embarrassing thing that you witnessed or that happened to you during basic training? Possibly NSFW. We don't all have war stories, but I bet we've all seen some embarrassing speep. I'll put mine in the comments. It is around the 20th of December, and RT decides to make a trainee sing Jingle Bells, since he left his key necklace outside of his shirt. Big no-no. This trainee had no idea as to what the words were, so as he is doing push-ups he is only saying jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells. He just keeps going. Artie lets out a primal scream of rage, gets right up in his face and screams at him, jingle all the way moth earth peeper. Goddamn, was that funny. Basic training. We all have jobs around the barracks. Some people are on latrine queen duty. Some people's job is to align the beds perfectly. My job was to man the utility closet and keep it neat and organized and stocked with chemicals and such for the flight to use when cleaning. It's a very small room with no ventilation. After the first 2 weeks of basic, I pretty much figured out what I was going to eat at every meal and rarely deviated. Peanut butter packet, honey packed, a piece of bread, and half a banana all smashed up together in the bread, and hawked down with a glass of Gatorade. Also usually some other speep depend on the meal. Well, the 5th week of training comes along, and something terrible happens to me in the chow line at dinner. No bananas, no honey, and only the speepty white bread. So I changed my meal up. I had a spaghetti and meatballs, and some other speep I'm not sure of 100%. That night on details, I'm manning the utility closet. I feel this terrible gas brewing, or what my current sergeant likes to call bubble gut. I'm trying to hold in this mother of all farts until such time as I can escape the closet and unleash this beast in the latrine. Apparently my altered dinner that night did not get along well with my plumbing. I end up giving up on holding in the fart and just cut a thunderous blast with it. I didn't realize my tea was standing in the hall just outside of my range of view. He was like most teas, ninja silent when calm, but loud as peep when angry. Well, he heard this gunshot loud fart, and before he could walk the 2 steps to get to the closet to yell at me for it, he could smell it too. He had his charging bull face on when he rounded the door frame to yell at me, but you could see where he hit the wall of stench. It looked like he ran into a brick wall, as he nearly lost his footing trying to back up and get away from the smell before he recovered his bearing. He starts yelling at me, "Did you speep your peeping pants, trainee? Holy mother of God. It smells like hot rotting garbage in the Texas sun. Mop 4. Mop 4. Everyone get your peeping gas masks on here. We have a goddamn chemical attack." The other trainees start to book it towards their bunks to get their gas masks. I started to try to move out, but he stares me dead in the eyes and says, "Not you, trainee. You get to sit in there and stew in it." "Yes, sir," I replied. After the details were done, he made me go check to see if I actually speeped my pants in the bathroom, then told me that I had to stay in the closet until the smell went away. I stayed in the closet for nearly an hour after the details were finished and gas masks. He would stop by every 5 minutes or so and pop off his gas mask to see if it still smelled. He called me the fart monitor for the remainder of basic, and any time he smelled a fart he'd ask me if I was crop dusting. Your meals sound pretty light for basic. I'm surprised you ate so little. Some PB, 1 piece of bread, and half a banana? With all that PT, I'd have passed out. Several weeks into training, we were getting ready to go to the gas chamber the next day. We got issued our gas masks, and then everyone hits the showers. All of a sudden, one of the guys whose bunk is near the latrine starts beatboxing the standard techno bass line. Untis untis untis. Out prances one of our class clowns, wearing only his gas mask, like a banana hammock. Everyone starts dying of laughter until our drill sergeant walks in, already pissed off that we are being loud. "Shut up. Toe the line. Oh, what the peep. You know that is going on your face in a couple hours, right?" So he smokes the dog's peep out of us, and the dude had to keep the gas mask on, getting it nice and sweaty for the next day. Camp sounds awful familiar to something Go to the gas chamber. Everyone hits the showers. Hitler. Outpranced one of our class Hitlers. Wearing only his gas mask. Like a banana hammock. During 8. I had a slight problem that required some investigative procedures. However, the medical facility at Feet Lee was not sufficient enough, so they shuttled me to Feet Eustace, where their hospital had the sort of facilities they required. After it was said and done, I was going outside to the smoking gazebo, and there some master sergeant saw me and came right up to me. "Soldier, what the f*** is that on your arm?" Mind you, most sergeants on a training facility play a character, not themselves. They are aggressive, demeaning, and harassing. And while the regulations legitimately say you cannot curse at the trainees, it's all up to the commander's discretion. And I was never in a unit, nor encountered a unit, where this regulation was in effect. Though, in basic, the training company behind us was not allowed to curse at the trainees. It was hilarious hearing what they would come up with in place of curse words. "Master Sergeant, it's my student leadership badge." I was confused at this point. This Master Sergeant, a man built like a brick wall and a head taller than me, was up in my face about this student leadership badge I was wearing. At Feet Lee, at least when I went there, platoon guides and student first sergeants would wear badges on our arms that show that we are student leadership. They don't do that at Feet Eustace, I guess. So to this Master Sergeant, I was definitely out of uniform. And someone out of uniform needs to be corrected. The alternative is getting a smoking. I was in no position to get smoked. "You have 5 seconds to unf-peep yourself. Private. What unit are you in?" I rattle off my company and all that. "Where the f-peep is that? Are you even from Feet Eustace?" "I'm stationed at Feet Lee." "Master Sergeant. Did you get lost or something?" I explained to him that Feet Lee didn't have the medical equipment to perform the procedure. "What procedure was it, Private?" I stumbled. I couldn't f-peeping remember the procedure's name. Sigmoidoscopy. There might have been a few more syllables in there. F-peeping a. Private. I can't even spell that. "What did they do to you?" I explained to him and moved calmly from parade dress to use my hands to describe it. "It's where they take a long, flexible tube with a camera and a flashlight, and I put my hands out about a meter apart, and they shoved in my ass." And that's when he broke character. He went from being this piated, unsympathetic asshole back to a human being. Holy f-peep. Private. I'm so sorry. When you get back to Feet Lee, do some combatives or lift some weights. Something manly. And he then points to my battle buddy, because trainees can never go anywhere alone. You tell no one what happened. As an edit, if you ever have a colonoscopy or a procedure similar to it, void the air out as soon as possible. I was stuck in that van for 2 whole hours needing to fart harder than I ever had needed to fart. Once I got to the bathroom, I knew what a balloon felt like. I also have a few more stories, mostly of a man named McBride who should have never been allowed into the army for obviously being too mentally disabled to join, and how his name became a curse word in our unit. Tell us about McBride. We had a guy who was sick and on bed rest for a couple days. The rest of the company was in the quad area doing weapons maintenance. One of the drill sergeants walked in the bay to grab something from the office. I guess out of pure instinct the sick guy saw him come in and shouted at ease and jumped to his feet. Problem was he was fapping at the time. What followed is possibly one of the most impressive smokings I've ever seen. Like pole smokings. Smoking is the word for punishment in the military. My husband told me a hilarious story about when he was in. There was this kid that missed trimming a long ass piece of thread off his uniform. Like 3 to 4 inches long. The drill instructor forced him to trim the thread and keep it as a pet for the remainder of basic training. He had to have it with him at all times. He had to named it Fred. Occasionally there would be a random person around, and the drill instructor would call him out and make the kid explain who Fred was. It went something like this. "Fred is my pet, sir. I have to water him every day. Sir. The instructor made the kid show the stranger how he watered his pet, which involved making the kid unscrew the cap to his canteen, filling up the cap with water, and dunking Fred in the water for a few seconds. He had to keep Fred in his pocket all the time. If he was caught without it, he would be punished. TL. Dr. Kid had to keep a long thread he forgot to trim all through basic training. He had to water it. His first week of training. One of those soft-spoken, scarecrow-looking guys who was well over 6 feet tall, while being yelled at by a short bulldog of a female drill instructor 5 feet tall, with shoulders as wide as she was tall, pissed himself in genuine fear. Nobody blamed him though, because when that woman said things like "I'm going to eat your face and speep it back onto your skull," you damn sure believed she would. Married guy and married girl, though not married to each other, got caught peeping in a dumpster behind the mess hall. Careers and marriages ended, knee-deep in rotting food. One guy marched like a puppet when his right foot went forward, so did his right arm, and vice versa. He could never figure out how to march properly during the entirety of basic. Our drill instructor intentionally tripped him before the final parade march, and when he fell, another instructor picked him up and escorted him off the parade grounds to the hospital to check for injury. After a field exercise, we were all sitting around in the dirt eating MREs while the cadre were explaining covering fire and positioning, when one guy next to me suddenly got a panicked look on his face and ran off into the woods as fast as he could, slapping his legs frantically. When the instructor flipped out asking what in the holy, all-loving FPT though he was doing, the guy screamed back, "Fire ants in my pants, sir," without ever looking back. The sequence of emotions on the instructor's face went from rage to pity to unabashed amusement and back to stoic faster than you can blink. Also, the group of guys I went through basic with had odd names that made for comedic gold when the instructors would yell at them. Some of the best names were Queer, Buttery, Junk, and Wiener. Sadly, none of them got into trouble simultaneously. The sequence of emotions on the instructor's face went from rage to pity to unabashed amusement and back to stoic faster than you can blink. This is what impressed me the most about drill sergeants. They saw some stupid speep and always managed to keep their cool well in light-hearted situations. Anyway, I saw a drill smile once, for a split second, when my buddy cracked a joke and we were blown away. Our drill sergeant smiled all the time. That's when you knew to be most afraid. Edit. Holy speep, that's hilarious. And to be fair, maybe he didn't misspeak. I mean implied, face rape is pretty threatening. Let's see. I've got 2 stories. One guy was in formation and decided to start watching planes fly over. He kept leaning back and looking around at the flight patterns, so the instructors pulled him out of formation and yelled at him for a bit. They made him spin in a circle like a radar antenna, point, and say "there" every time he saw an airplane. I was going through the chow hall when a new flight of female trainees was. They were rainbows, still in civvies and so on. One girl got stopped by our LT prior enlisted, built like a pile of bricks. I don't know what he said to her, but she flipped out, threw her tray on the ground, and started screaming at the lieutenant. She was gesturing wildly when he told her to stow it and go outside, or she'd be very sad. So she spits on him and takes a swing. The other instructors pull her down and start getting people the hell out of the chow hall. As my flight forms up and waits for our instructor, who was still inside, a K9 unit shows up from security forces. The cop comes out, goes inside, comes out with a girl handcuffed. She's flailing, screaming, and basically going insane. So she kicks his dog as hard as she can. I heard the thump from 40 feet away. So the dog bites her on the calf. We had some lectures after that one about people trying to go crazy to get out of basic and not to try it. One guy was in formation and decided to start watching planes fly over. He kept leaning back and looking around at the flight patterns, so the instructors pulled him out of formation and yelled at him for a bit. They made him spin in a circle like a radar antenna, point, and say "there" every time he saw an airplane. This is the best punishment in the whole thread. Our platoon had to take our mattresses, sheets, blankets and pillows outside to the parking area between the barracks. I can't remember what the transgression was that merited this punishment, but probably because that he thought the racks weren't tight enough. This is in San Diego in the summer, middle of the day. We had to arrange the mattresses in ranks and columns and make them tidily. Then we all stood on line at attention, and that he would say sweet dreams. At a million miles per hour we got under our sheets and wool blankets in the afternoon sun and yelled sweet dreams, sir. Then good morning, recruits, followed by good morning, sir, at which point we hurriedly made our racks and stood at attention. This was repeated over and over, for easily more than 10 minutes. I remember there was a handful of civilians walking by, who stopped to watch. It wasn't a Friday, which is when family members come for graduation, so I'm not sure who they were, or what they were doing. Regardless, there were a couple girls among them, and I remember thinking that this was not at all in keeping with the hardcore persona that every soon-to-be Marine wants to project. It was also fairly late into boot camp, at the point when recruits are no longer scared and confused, and they have a sort of Stockholm syndrome, and the recruits and drill instructors are feeding each other in this insane, symbiotic relationship of hilarious suffering, and everyone on both sides is trying to suppress a grin and maintain their bearing. So from the point of view of those civilian onlookers, Marine boot camp is a bunch of men on the brink of giggling, playing make-believe nighty-night time, wishing each other sweet dreams,